Martins.
And I'm Zibby.
Joining us for the next half hour, we have got Mr. C to discuss what is going on in Nigeria as we take a look at what's happening in the newspapers. Good morning, Mr. C. Welcome once again.
Good morning, Shopper. Good morning, Zibby. Good
Lovely to have
morning,
you.
Lagos.
Mm. And good morning, world, wherever it is you're joining us, whether it be on youtube.com/ smooth 981 FM Lagos or on your radios or online. All you need to do to join the conversation is find us on one of these platforms. On YouTube, you can leave a comment as you watch the live stream and we'll get your messages and questions and opinions in. You can also send WhatsApp messages to 0809 4440981, and you can tweet at us. We are at smooth981fm. Tag us in your tweets. You can also tag Mr. C. He is at Monsieur C with three E's after that C. Tag us and we'll get your comments. All right, so lots of stories to discuss today as usual, and what we're going to start off with is real security. We have this headline in from The Nation, and I'll give you a little background information from the article, but it says federal government to employ vigilantes for real security. So the federal government has come out with this new move saying that it's going to employ the services of vigilantes to secure the train services, and this extra security arrangement for the rails is expected to start with the Abuja Kaduna rail corridor, because that's the first thing that people would think about when they think about rail security. Now, this following the March 28th attack that has halted services along the corridor for months, with the railway corporation coming out to say that, well, we need to secure the corridors, despite the fact that we also need to continue to make money. Yeah, Mr. C. So, vigilantes, what do you think about this move?
Okay, thank you, Shopper. So it's a very interesting move by the federal government, and we need to understand how we got here. Now, the Abuja Kaduna Road Highway has been plagued by insecurity for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
and there have been numerous abductions along the route, despite the presence of military and police patrols. Then people then resorted to the rail service because there are no direct flights between Kaduna and Abuja. And the reason is simple. Abuja to Kaduna by air is 15 minutes. It makes absolutely no sense for any commercial airline to offer
To
services
fly that way.
unless people are prepared to pay huge amounts of money. So people then moved to the rail service. And then on March, sometime in March this year, there was the infamous abduction for which I think there's still people who have not been released.
Yes.
And since that incident, the rail service between Abuja and Kaduna has been suspended. So people have literally had their hearts in their mouths every time they travel or shuttle between Abuja and Kaduna. And we've seen numerous reports of passengers being stuck on the highway because at certain points, unidentified armed men are kidnapping people or robbing them. Now, the federal government has then resorted to vigilantes, which is very interesting because it's an implicit admission that the regular state sanctioned security agencies are incapable of getting the job done. Now, I'm an advocate for trying something else if everything you've been trying previously has not worked. Now, the question is this: vigilantes armed with what? Surely I hope they're not armed with sticks and batons, because the federal government continues to maintain that only state-sanctioned security operators can carry AK-47s. So the question I have for the rail service and for the federal government this morning is, yes, we hear you, vigilantes will man the route at determined locations. What will they be armed with? Because the people who carried out that abduction in March came armed with explosives and weapons, light and automatic weapons. So what are your vigilantes coming with? Surely not bows and arrows and charms and amulets.
However, if they do get armed, then that brings into question, okay, does that then open up the gates for other outfits such as Motekun?
So that's one dimension.
Mm,
If you arm these vigilantes, right, what will be the continued basis for refusing to arm the other state securities licensed under state law by the various
mhm.
state governments? But now, even more importantly, excuse me, vigilantes, who supervises the vigilantes? Who is responsible for training? If there are complaints about their behavior or conduct, who do we direct those complaints to? Who is paying for this? Because I want to truly believe this is not a free service. So the payment for these vigilantes is captured in what Budget Appropriation Act?
Mr. C, you are asking so many pertinent questions. However, this article doesn't have any of those answers. So we'll be looking for updates and more information on this. Although the special advisor on land transport and union matters to the Minister of State for Transportation said that the ministry is working with security agencies rather. So
I think
hopefully at some point in this working together, there are these questions will be brought up, or maybe have already been brought up, and solutions are being
I think
provided.
sometimes our journalists can be a bit more inventive and a bit more serious. Don't allow a government official to stand before you, issue a statement that is very vague, short on details, and allow him to disappear. Ask him the questions on the spot. Let him come out and say he doesn't have the answers. Then they will stop this nonsense of coming out giving us vague statements without details.
All right.
We've got a message coming through, but we'll go on to the next conversation before we look at the messages. And this one comes back to something we discussed yesterday, the National Honors Nominees List. Now, the federal government yesterday described the purported list of nominees for national honors that has been circulated by online media organizations as fake. Reports say the media was awash last over the weekend with these names that were purportedly to be conferred with national honors. Now, the list of nominees, which of course has gone viral on the internet, definitely did generate a lot of criticism, especially about the caliber of people who were nominated for the awards. Mr. C, what do you think about this?
So expectedly, they've withdrawn with their tails in between their legs. Now, so what I believe personally is they were testing the waters, and if there was no public backlash or pushback, this list would have sailed. Now they come out to say, oh, it's not our list, that the authentic list is coming out. Guess what? When that or seemingly authentic list does come out, I'm pretty certain at least some of the people who've had objections raised to their being given honors, you will find their names missing on the final list. And it brings me to something. The current Minister for Education, I understand, is being given a national award. Excuse me, how?
Well, if we believe the government that that list is fake,
No,
well,
no, no. That it was even contemplated
mm,
is ridiculous. Nigerian tertiary students have been at home for at least 8 to 9 months, at least once in the government-owned schools. On what basis is he being given a national award? And it's high time they share the criteria, the current criteria for selecting awardees of national awards. We need to know so that we can then comment on why seemingly ordinary Nigerians like Chopin or yourself seemingly cannot get national awards.
now, fake news has been a problem. Is it possible by any dimension that perhaps some people who are up to some mischief might have created this list?
So it's very easy to it's very easy for the federal government to do this. Will they go after the people who generated this list and put it out? No. That puts to rest the question that you are asking. It's not, I don't believe it's fake news. They did this deliberately, and there's a huge trust deficit. So they did this deliberately, tested the water. This is not the first time this government would test the waters, and then when they do not like the reaction, they withdraw. They were testing the waters. I'm personally convinced of that.
All right. Let's take more news now from the Daily Trust. We are committed to smart transportation system. That's what the Nigerian Institute of Transport Technology, Zaria, has said. Let's see. What do you see?
Hmm. Okay, so thank you, Shopman. So the DG of the National Institute of Transport Technology says they're committed to smart transportation systems. Yes, and this was part of his Independence Day speech. Now, beyond this, how are they committed? Have they started the process? Are they encountering problems or challenges? So, And in a country as unique as Nigeria, what technologies are they planning to deploy? How do they intend to monitor real time traffic? How do they intend to monitor real time the highways? Because for those of us who've traveled, have had cause to travel around Nigeria, there are certain parts of the same highway, there's no reception, no internet reception. So if you're at such a point and you need to gather data, how does that happen?
So did you guys ever see this video about? This is very random, I know, but did you ever see this video about a highway that sings to you if you follow the speed limit? I can't remember which country it's in. If you guys remember, if anyone out there remembers, please send us a message, YouTube, WhatsApp, Twitter, whatever. But it's just part of the ways of keeping people engaged as they drive on the expressway and drive within the limit. So if you pass certain points of the expressway, it sings you a melody so that you
Soothes you.
so that you can listen to music as you drive within the speed limits. I'm just saying that's smart. But
True.
this is yes.
And then to add to this, he says the NIT is committed towards the adoption of clean energy for transport. Now, that is very interesting, yes, because clean energy means you move away from renewable fossil fuels like petrol.
Yeah, they're talking about alternative fuels
So,
here.
Remember that 2 years ago, the federal government announced a plan whereby they were going to convert cars from petrol to compressed natural gas. And they are planning to set up plants everywhere. It seems or it appears that plan is in abeyance. We heard they had huge plans and it seemingly never kicked off because they plan to convert about 1 million cars, I think by now next year. Now, clean energy would also include electricity because in the Western world, at least for the last 10 years, they've been on electric cars and they're steadily
Yeah,
growing.
the move is for 2030 electric cars to proliferate the highways. Yeah,
In which country?
it feels like all of them.
No, not
Apart from us.
I-
But like California is supposed to go all electric, which should have major impact on the rest of the U.S. economy. That's one. That will be by 2030.
No, so that will work. The reason why I asked is certainly not in Nigeria
I could have told you that also.
because
Everybody can.
we have serious power challenges here.
Mhm.
And yes, efforts have already started to address the power problems, but I dare say that 8 years will not be sufficient for us to overcome our challenges and move to clean energy.
Although I do remember seeing some private companies offering electric charging options for cars
In Nigeria?
Mhm.
Okay.
in Lagos.
At a fee.
Of course.
And then three, the bigger question. You're either converting the cars now if the technology exists or is readily available, or you have to buy electric cars like Teslas. Now, if you speak to car importers, if you look at the customs data for the last, say, 18 to 24 months, we're importing more used cars than brand new cars. And that is a direct testament to the purchasing power of the average Nigerian today. So even this move to clean energy, will the cars be readily available? Will they be readily affordable? Because each day we see the continuing extinction of this supposed middle class. So it's one thing to say, yes, we're moving to clean energy in all aspects. Are we truly ready? Are we putting in place the things that need to be put in place now so that by the envisaged target, even if we're not there completely, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel?
All right, we've got your messages coming in. We'll take them right after we take this break. So stick with us right here. It's Smooth Breakfast and Freshly Pressed till 8.
Love music. Love life.
There are three new cars.
The new car.
A new car.
Which
A
brand?
20, any brand. A 2020.
Because the Chinese brands are still cheaper.
You know, those,
Geely,
no,
Great
please,
Wall.
when we're talking about cars,
See, that's why I said which one.
a 2022 Picanto. That's
Ooh, how much is one of those now?
11 million.
2022 Picanto.
Why would anyone pay?
Yeah, that box.
Did it grow bigger? It didn't grow bigger.
No, it didn't grow bigger.
Okay. Oh, wow. Fun. Who's going to pay that for?
So imagine you have to bring a Tesla in. How much will that cost in Nigeria?
People are already mortgaging houses for these things. All right, we'll be coming back now. All right, and here we are back with your messages. We'll start off with this one from Nedu, who says, Vigilantes again for the real. Another cookie jar for the boys. Um, Dan Okuda says, if the vigilantes that will guard the train should bear arms, then Amotekun should also bear arms. No section of the country is bigger than the other. That is from Barrister Dan.
And Dami says, remember who got the pipeline protection contracts in the Niger Delta? With a wink, the railway lines are just another example of how we throw money at security challenges with little oversight and hope they go away. It's just wash and repeat. Hmm. Samuel says, "This the country is almost down, yet the government keeps saying everything is fine. If they believe the economy and security is fine, then it's fair to give those who did the work national honors. So the Minister of Education deserves to be there." Okay.
Right. We've got more messages. Up on 0809 981. You can also go up on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos and leave your comments on the live stream.
And Tayo says it's Route 66 in response to the singing
Ah,
highway
New
shoppers spoke
Mexico.
about.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
He says that of India is interesting. If you honk too much, the red light stays for longer.
Ooh.
Wow, it's teaching them patience. I love that.
Random, and I like it. Yeah. Okay. Adewale from Ikeja says, Nigerian politicians and incomplete, vague statements. Ditto the statement with the national honors list or the statement that Nigeria is committed to smart transportation. They make abstract, subjective statements and expect the populace to fill in the gaps. The question that should have been asked right there was, what is his own definition of smart transportation?
Right. And D from Alausa says, Mr. C propagating conspiracy theories that any proof. If the government says the list is fake, why doubt without proof that they are telling untruths?
Well, it could be the media, it could be the government, but somehow there seems to be a break in communication along the way because we've had this time and again where news will come out and then it's quickly walked back. And then news that's adjacent to it will come out again. Just putting that out there. All right. And who else do we have? Nedu says states should manage their things, including their security. Decentralize governance now and let states live independently. Simple. Up on YouTube, Anthony and Ao says concerning the National Honors List, the award ceremony is slated for next week. Letters have been sent out and people congratulated. So let the real list be published immediately. And remember, you can also go up on Twitter at smooth981fm is the handle to tag. All right, let's move on now. We've got more news for you.
Okay, this one is coming from Punch. The Pharmacists Council of Nigeria arrests 110 vendors and seals up over 18,000 pharmacies. Now, this is for the period of review between 2018 to 2022. So, 1,780 pharmacies were sealed and 16,502 patent medicine stores as well were sealed for various offenses. And this statistic is from the data carried out by the council every 5 years. Now, in addition, 110 vendors, medicine vendors, were arrested during this time. Now, the PCN made this information available. So, Mr. C, when it comes to this situation, what are you thinking?
Okay, thank you, Zibby. Now, looking at this, it's interesting that the offences for which the premises were sealed and the vendors arrested were not stated. But then looking at the trend from 2018 to 2021, we noticed that from 2018 to 2019, there was a steady increase. There was a drop in 2020, which we could attribute to the fact that there was COVID and there was a restriction of movement for some period of time. Then it picks up again in 2021. Now, the bigger question is this: if the rules and laid down procedures, why are so many people violating them? Because from the data the PCN supplied, they sealed about 19,059 pharmaceutical premises out of 27,262 premises. That is a 70% seal rate, meaning that only 30% of the premises visited were in full compliance with the laid down rules and regulations. Now, there are premises that were not visited. One can only begin to think or imagine what goes on at those premises. And it calls into question a more salient issue. Why is the average Nigerian seemingly disposed to breaking the law than complying with it? And we see that in every facet of life. We see that on the roads, we see that at the airports, people trying to jump the queues, trying to jump the lines because they think they're smarter and they believe that when they do it, they will get away with it. If there are rules
Yes.
and procedures, you cannot try to subvert them because no great country has truly become great by people breaking the laws. Every great country has law and order. The only place I see Nigerians ready to queue are the BRT bus stops because it personally affects them. And because the buses are inadequate, they know that if they allow people to jump and get in, they may be left at bus stops with no means of getting home. So we need to look inwards. We need to look at ourselves and ask ourselves salient questions. Why are we seemingly determined not to do the proper thing? And then now that they've sealed these premises, what will be the outcome? Are there any sanctions to be administered? Are there any premises that have had their licenses withdrawn? These are details they should also provide so that the public is adequately guided and informed, and you don't present yourself at a premises or at a shop that has been whose approval has been revoked. And two, we need to know what the offenses are going forward. Even with this, they can add a further statement telling us what they've done.
I'm still stuck on that part where you talked about what is it Nigerians, because I'm not sure it's just Nigerians, it's everybody in the world, isn't it? When we look at the tendency to be rule breakers and have our personal benefits run our
Yeah,
thinking.
it's human instinct, but it's more pronounced here. And then you think about it, the same Nigerians travel outside the country, even to Benin, they behave themselves. So what's going on? Is it the Nigerian air? Is it the Nigerian environment? What exactly is it?
What is
This
the Nigerian environment? I think also that's a question of what is the Nigerian, what is nationhood? Do we think in terms of the country, or do we think in terms of ourselves, families, tribes? Do we
so
even think in terms of ourselves at a state level?
there's
Like,
just
would you say I'm a Lagosian and that's like an element of pride, or I'm a Nigerian and that's something that I can key into with everybody else? I don't know.
there's so many issues. We're clearly not yet a nation. We're just a group of disparate people who find ourselves together. Now, when you speak of nations, you speak about nations. You speak about United States of America. That is a nation. But here, you hear people say you're not. You've lived in Lagos. You've been born in Lagos. Lived almost all your life in Lagos, and you're told you're not a Lagosian. I was born in Lagos. I've lived most of my life in Lagos. I still find people who tell me I'm not a Lagosian. I'm like, excuse you. What makes you a Lagosian?
On paper, are you a Lagosian? Or do you have to return to your state of origin,
So,
even though
so,
it's not your state of birth?
so here's the thing. You have Nigerians who have a state of origin and have had little or no contact with that state of origin, but have had more contact with where they live.
Hmm.
Would you then suggest to them that they're more linked to the state of origin? Meanwhile, when they go to the state of origin, the people there are saying, "Sorry, we don't
Who
know
are
you."
you?
No, they're saying like, "Sorry, we don't know you. You
Mm,
don't come home."
right.
Hmm. All right. Well, we've got to move on, and let's talk about states talking to states now, or factions within the state talking to other factions. All right. From this day newspaper, Rivers APC to APC governors visiting Wike, an embarrassment to our party. The Rivers States, the leadership of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, saying that it's embarrassing and improper for some of the party's governors to visit Governor Wike in complete disregard for the party's state chapter. The warnings coming in the wake of repeated visits to Wike by APC governors from the southwest zone. Mr. C, what do you make of this?
Okay, so very quickly, Shopware. I think this is an implied admission by the Southwestern APC governors that the APC as a party in River State is almost non-existent and has little or no electoral value. It's a tacit ad, admission because if you check out the results, at least from 2015, 2019, I'm not sure how well River State APC did in the state elections. Now they're talking to the man on the ground, the man who the people connect with. Now they keep on saying that they will no longer accept it. Excuse me, what are you going to do? If they fly in with the security details, what exactly are you going to do? So it's behoves on them to now demonstrate why they should be considered, why they're relevant. And you only do that by demonstrating your electoral value, your electoral importance. And until they do that, they're just complaining and moaning. I'm sorry. That's what it is.
Right.
And let's take one final story before we take your messages.
Okay. And this message is coming in
Oh,
from.
yeah, the story comes in from the Punch newspaper. State police will end insecurity, says Ekiti Monarch.
Okay,
Yes.
so very quickly, Alekiti State Monarch has expressed the opinion that the establishment of state police will end insecurity. Now, I'm not so sure about that, but it will help because when you're dealing with a police force that takes its orders from Abuja, right? It sometimes can be very challenging when there's an immediate problem on the ground and then the commissioner for police is either, for whatever reason, cannot respond quickly. However, the real causes of insecurity continue to lie amongst a number of things. One, the lack of proper education. Two, economic climate. If people are properly educated and they have economic opportunities to tap into and harness, then insecurity then will be greatly reduced. And until you tackle the twin pillars of education and economic climate, you will continue to encounter insecurity because the people there have resorted to a life of criminality to survive. If they were given more opportunities, I'm not saying crime will disappear or crime will vanish, but then those who are on the borderline or those who are on the fringes will rather put their hands and efforts into honest, diligent work rather than resort to a life of crime.
This message comes in from Fabian, who hails from Ekpa, saying, I wonder if Mrs. C has forgotten the 13th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. People unfortunately break laws because they believe they won't get caught or are above the law. Yesterday on the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, those leading the way on the wrong side of the road were our law enforcement agents. So, yeah.
Okay, this one is from Dami. He says, Mr. C, you need to visit the BRT bus stops at Ikorodu, Ikeja, and Maryland. Jumping queues are an Olympic sport. Also, our lawmakers and enforcers are also the chief lawbreakers. What examples of good behavior do they have to follow?
Mm.
Okay, this is Ayodele who says surrounding implementation of clean energy policies for the benefit of the middle class, Nigeria is not under as much of the severe handicap as you have pictured. Just like you already know, efforts are being made. What is required under a 10-year timeline is funding, and um, the Nigerian government is getting it from the Scandinavian countries and Britain, I think is what he's trying to say. The vice president has pushed for an idea he presents as debt for climate. All this means there are opportunities even under 8 years. By then, uh, everyone, you and EVs would probably have developed some kind of familiar. Okay. Thank you so much for this message, and hopefully, we read as much of it as we could.
All right, Jane says this electricity news is so tiring. Every government purported to have signed deals with one country or the other and payments and deposit made because there's no accountability. They take us for a ride. Please add that you pay your tax in Lagos and you are still not a Lagosian. I've been told I cannot benefit anything from my state as I am not known. And Lagos, where I've lived all my life, says I'm not a Lagosian.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you. I think we'll end the show on that message. Thank you so much, Jane, and to everybody else who sent your messages in and participated in this show and this conversation. And of course, a major thank you to our analyst, Mr. C, whom you can find across social media at Monsieur C. Yeah, he's French on social media. And coming up, we have got the grapevine for you. That will be at 8:15. All the entertainment news you can handle.
ARM. Invested in your tomorrow.
The headlines, the stories,
Thank you. Bye bye.
the news.
Headlines.